All right, it is 6:30. We're going to go ahead and get started with the Wednesday, January 21st West Consolidated Zoning Board meeting. If we could get a roll call.
Jeff Huff.
Here.
Craig Connell.
Here on Zoom.
John DeGran.
Present.
Terry Atwell is absent. Donna Getzman.
Here.
Bob Paulson.
Here.
Roger Spears. Is absent. We have quorum.
Very good, thank you. If we could do the statement for hybrid in-person virtual meeting.
This meeting is now being recorded in the board hearing room with zoning board members attending in person. There's also an option for virtual attendance on Zoom webinar. For Zoom attendees wishing to speak, please use the raise hand function in the Zoom app at the start of the agenda item on which you desire to comment. Comments will be received from in-person attendees first, followed by Zoom participants. When it is your turn to speak, the moderator will recognize you by the name or number used to join the Zoom webinar, and your microphone will be unmuted. Please state your name and the city state where you reside for the record, followed by your comments. All public speakers will be limited to 3 minutes unless the chair designates a different time period. If you have trouble with Zoom, please call 913-715-9666. Board members, staff, and presenters, please state your name every time you begin speaking, and please speak into the microphone so that people attending via Zoom can hear you, and the comments can be transcribed for the record. This is a public meeting. We are presenting live and recording the meeting. Thank you.
On with the agenda items. Is there anything we need to add, delete, revise, or approve on the agenda? Does not appear. Disclose of conflicts of interest? Does not appear to be. And disclosure of external contacts or discussions? Does not appear to be any. If I could get a motion for the approval of the minutes?
Donna
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Donna Getzman, I move to approve the minutes from December 17th, 2025.
Bob Paulson, I'll second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? It appears that we have approved the minutes. Very good for the December 17th meeting. Now for the board reports, the Board of County Commissioners actions.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Jay Leipzig, Planning Director. Can you all hear me okay? I know last time there was an issue with some of the Zoom audio coming through, so I'm holding the microphone closer. Well, just to quick summary, a couple different things. The Board of County Commissioners, we had a committee of the whole on January the 15th, last Thursday morning. And as you're aware, when we talked with you during our December meeting about the possible consolidation of the East and the West Zoning Board together, the board did direct staff to begin the reorganization resolution. So we are planning on, we had a discussion about that at the committee of the whole last Thursday. We were planning on having a public hearing on that item on February 12th. And so next month before the Board of County Commissioners. We also anticipate that we will have a zoning board meeting in February as well. So we have one more meeting at least as we go through this reorganization process. But that was the most recent update with the Board of County Commissioners. Also we had 2 cases on our previous month's agenda that were both approved by this board. Application W25-520 for an accessory building permit, and then application number W25-524 for a preliminary plat and a final plat for Johnson Estates. Is that correct? Yeah. Both of those items are being heard by the Board of County Commissioners tomorrow morning at 9:30. And that concludes that report.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. All right, so we'll go on to the business before the board. It looks like the application.
Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Mr. Chair, just
sorry.
one item, the Planning Commission actions too.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I paused between the two of them. So the Planning Commission agenda, we had at our meeting in December, we had a draft text presentation concerning short-term rentals that was reviewed by the Planning Commission. We have a public hearing scheduled for that item on next Tuesday, which I believe is January 27th. And basically this is in preparation for the World Cup soccer tournament that will be held next summer. So we're just trying to be proactive about that. And this will be part of the new zoning and subdivision regulations as well.
All right, a lot of preparations for that.
Yes,
That old soccer tournament that's coming to town. So, all right, very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, now we can move on to the business before the board. Application requesting to a continuation. So if we could have a motion for that continuation.
John DeGrand, I move that we continue application W25518 PP and W25519 FP to the February meeting.
Bob Paulson, I'll second.
If we could have all of those in favor of that continuation, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we'll move forward with that continuation. Go to the next item, application number W25-534-PP and W25535FPGA preliminary and final plat, northeast corner of 159th Street and Gardner East Road. If we could have the planning presentation, we'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the zoning board, Sean Penley, county planning staff. I'll be presenting this report and proposed applications for Diane Wickler, who is out this evening. The staff report was included in the packet for the proposed application. This is a preliminary and final plat for Gardner Lake Estates, first plat. And the subject property is located at the northeast corner of 159th Street and Gardner East Road to the east of Gardner Lake. The subject property is outlined in blue here on this vicinity map. Current zoning for the property is RUR, rural district. Current land use is undeveloped. And the proposed plat area is just over 43 acres, and there are 3 proposed lots with this subdivision. The subject property is actually just over 60 acres, or approximately 67 acres, as shown here in this vicinity map outlined in blue. And the plat will encompass roughly the south two-thirds of the subject property. So the lots will be fronting on 159th Street. This is an aerial view showing the subject property in the surrounding area for Gardner Lake, again with that entire property outlined in blue. So the proposed plat is the area that's identified here on the south two-thirds, basically everything that's below the dashed yellow line here. And this is where the plat is. The north part of the property will be platted as part of a future phase of development that the applicant is proposing that will require a separate rezoning and plat process. So that part of the property is not included in this application this evening. This is a closer up view of the south half of the property fronting 159th Street. This shows the existing floodplain that is part of the Gardner Lake area south of 159th Street, and also part of the roadway is actually within the floodplain. So that we'll talk a little bit about that with this application, why that does affect this application in terms of access on 159th Street. So the frontage where these lots do front on 159th Street, that street frontage is actually within floodplain. So that does affect right-of-way and access and future driveway entrances. So we wanted to identify that floodway and the floodplain that's associated with Gardner Lake. So this is the proposed preliminary plat for the subject property. As mentioned before, there are 3 proposed lots identified here, all fronting on 259th Street. The lots range in area from 11 acres up to 16 acres, so they all exceed the minimum 10 acres for the rural district. They will have access with frontage on 259th Street, but also there will be a proposed emergency access drive and driveway on Gardner East Road, which I'll mention here in just a minute. All of the lots do exceed the minimum requirement for frontage for the Carnap designated arterial roads. 159th Street is designated as a type 1 minor arterial road, and the minimum requirements for frontage are 330 feet. All of these lots exceed that. And actually the entire frontage there for this whole, for just the lot 1, I believe, is 1,307 feet. And so there's, again, all of these will exceed that requirement. So they have plenty of frontage. And there will be a shared driveway that's also proposed, they'll have the emergency access drive that will serve all 3 lots, but they could conceivably have separate driveways if they meet all site distance requirements. The applicant did provide a site distance analysis as part of this application, went through extensive review of that analysis. The Public Works Department did review that, and upon review and some corrections, the applicant did make changes to the driveway, possible driveway entrance locations to meet site distance. So they are, with this plat, they are showing areas that could have the required site distance and meet all site distance requirements. And the emergency access drive that I mentioned, I'll try to show that here if I can get our markup to work. So the emergency, oops, that's a little bit too large. That's not quite what I needed here. Let's try this again. It's a little bit wider than I really needed to show, but this area that I've identified here in red, that is the proposed location for the emergency access drive. Because where the frontage is along 159th Street would be within a floodplain, staff had required a secondary access to those lots in the event that there is a flood and it's inundated at the driveway entrance. So this emergency access driveway will be constructed, and is a requirement of this plat, that emergency access drive will be constructed to serve all 3 lots in the event that there is any flooding along 159th Street. And that's a stipulation requirement of the plat. That driveway does need to be installed prior to recording the plat. This is the proposed final plat that just identifies all of the lot area, setbacks, required access easement, and other utility easements. Staff did review this application for requirements for all of the minimum subdivision requirements, and the proposed plat does meet all of the requirements with the exception of one requirement, and that is for minimum lot depth to width ratio. The minimum lot depth ratio for the RUR districts is 1:4. So basically the length of a lot can't exceed 4 times the width. In this case, it does exceed that. These lots are a little bit deeper than what would normally be allowed. Staff did review a request from the applicant for an exception. And here, because of the where they're showing access and how they're working with a secondary access on Gardner East Road, and based on the configuration of these lots, staff did determine that a plat exception would be appropriate here. The lot width to depth as proposed would be 1 to 5.5. That's a little bit greater than the 1:4 ratio. This is not unusual for a request like this with the configuration. It's pretty much in line with what other lots, larger lots in this area would have as far as a lot width to depth ratio. So staff does recommend approval of that plat request for the lot depth to width ratio. As I mentioned, we also did complete review of the proposed plat for all of the subdivision requirements. This plat does meet all subdivision requirements with the exception of the lot width to depth. There was one other issue that was noted. Staff had received a call from a neighbor in the general vicinity of Gardner Lake with some questions regarding previous land disturbance on the subject property to the north. As part of the existing 60-acre property, the property owner had done some land disturbance previously on this lot to the north, the property to the north. That's not actually a part of this proposed plat, but it is in the general vicinity. Staff had followed up on that request last year when the owner had done some previous land disturbance on the property, and the owner was notified that there's a requirement for land disturbance permit, and we issued a stop work order on the work that was being done on the property at that time. The owner stopped work of all grading activity. They were required to install erosion control around the perimeter of the property, also required to have all measures in place for future erosion control on the property. They did so, and they completed that erosion control at that time. Since that time, there's been no further disturbance. Staff has recommended approval of this with including stipulations for land disturbance and erosion control going forward. So for future activity on this subject property, they will be required to install erosion control and make sure they're meeting all of those requirements. That was really the only other comment that staff received. Staff hasn't received any other calls or emails regarding this property. Staff does recommend approval of the proposed preliminary and final plat for a 3-lot subdivision known as Gardner Lake Estates, subject to the stipulations in the report. In addition, staff recommends approval of the requested plat exceptions for lot width to depth ratios for lots 2 and 3. The applicant is in attendance and is able to answer any questions. That concludes staff's presentation, and I can answer any questions for staff.
Oops. It does not appear that we have any questions right now. All right. Applicant presentation, if you could introduce yourself, address, and look forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Township Zoning Board. I'm Mark Huggins with Payne and Brockway. We're at 426 South Kansas. We're the engineers and surveyors on this project. Kevin Eubanks is here also. We've read through the staff report, been working with the staff for several months. We're in agreement with the report, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have of us.
Report at this point, unless you have anything to add. I think that they've covered it for us at this time. So
We agree.
thank you for being here. So thank you very much. All right. At this time, we'll open it up to public comments. If anybody from the area would like to speak, you can come up to the podium. Just please give us your name and address, and we would love to hear from you at this time.
Hi, my name is Jackie Benke, and I live at 15250 Lake Road 12. My friend and I had met Kevin when he was coming in, cutting down, excuse me, the trees on the property. And that property that he bought was beautiful. And it had a lot of deer and wildlife. And one day we met him, and he encouraged us and told us that he was just, taking down a few trees. And as it turned out, he destroyed the property. And there was now like 5 trees left. And it's really sad. We didn't expect that because we took his word that he was going to leave a lot of the trees and vegetation, well, maybe not the vegetation, but the trees. And as it turned out, everybody in that area is pretty frustrated with him because we had a very severe rain, and the lake flooded because he did not take proper control measures for the erosion. And right down, the road down there, the lake's flooded in front of Mark's house. I don't even think that has been addressed or fixed. But so I just wanted him to know how frustrated that we were, because my friend and I met him, and like I said, one day we were very encouraged and felt very positive by what he was telling us. And then, like I said, he has just totally destroyed that property and tore the trees up. And so honestly, myself and a lot of the neighbors are very distrustful about what he's going to do with the rest of the property and how he's probably going to restore what he tore down when he, had originally told us that he was going to take. So that's just what I'm saying. And I'd like him to know how frustrated the neighbors are. In fact, another neighbor told my husband today, she said she cried because so many of the trees and area was taken down and destroyed. And honestly, the other part that we're concerned about is, we do appreciate the fact that you've plotted the property and, you're going to manage it with 3 houses. Instead of coming in, it could have been brought in with all sorts of other, apartments or whatever. But I think a lot of us in the neighborhood around the lake want to know, number one, how the lake is going to be protected with the erosion. And then number two, what's going to happen with the rest of the 67 acres. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, anybody else that would like to provide comments? All right. Looks like that's all the public comments at this time. So zoning board, are there any questions that you have now based off of the information you have of the staff, of the public?
Sean, do you have a sort of response? I think it's sort of veiled in here, but can you address those concerns of the erosion and that type of thing?
Sure. Yeah, good question. Thank you. Sean Penley, County Planning Staff. Yeah, as I mentioned, staff was aware of the previous land disturbance on the property, and both planning and public works staff inspected the site and notified the property owner of the requirements for a land disturbance permit. It was inspected. We did notify them of the requirements for erosion control. They installed all the proper erosion control measures on site with silt fencing and other requirements. They will be required to restore that area of land disturbance if it hasn't been already. We understand at the time, I think they had seeded it. I believe that's something that maybe the applicant can also address how that's going to be handled ongoing. That area of land disturbance, I will clarify, is not actually on this subject property of the plat, but it is on the north property. So I think there was another question regarding what will happen for the future phases. As I mentioned, the applicant does intend to come forward with another application for a rezoning and a future plat on that property where there was no land disturbance. So that will be a separate application, and that will also require another public notice. So all property owners within the same area, 1,000 feet from the property, will be noticed of that. So when that future application comes forward to the zoning board, they will receive notice for that. And they'll be, again, required to maintain all proper erosion control. As far as offsite and how will the lake be protected, we have inspected both this property and Public Works also inspected the area around the lake where we had received complaints about sedimentation and erosion offsite. If we have any more detailed questions, I may ask Jacob Askian with Public Works, but I can basically state what he had provided information to planning staff before. They notified one particular property owner of the investigation and the inspection that they did. And the inspection that they did back in July of 2025, they were aware of the heavy rain events and the previous land disturbance. And they, as I mentioned, they inspected both this property and the property to the north and also the property around the lake. And it was determined that they had installed all required erosion control on the property where they were needed to have that erosion control in place. And then they did inspect the cove and the Gardner Lake area. Although there had been sedimentation there, that was an ongoing problem, and there was already erosion control, or erosion and sedimentation on that area. It was hard to attribute how much was already there because of natural drainage areas and how much may have been attributed for any upstream land disturbance. So it was noted that really there's no clear and obvious amount to be determined as to how much was attributed to this upstream land disturbance. So there was really nothing more that staff can do as far as enforcement on that. However, the property owner will be required to maintain all erosion control going forward. So that's just kind of a general description of the previous actions and what will be required going forward. But certainly if there's any more detailed questions, we have Public Works staff here and also the applicant if we need to defer to them on any technical details.
Thank you.
So can we conclude that like there has been a baseline set now for the property that we're evaluating, that we know what it looks like, what has been done, what hasn't been done, so that as, you know, if something were to happen, we would know been disturbed, hasn't been disturbed, you know, so that we can make sure the neighbors know that we are aware and that you're aware. We can't do anything, but you know that the people that can do things are aware of what's happening. Sure.
Yeah, I'll try to answer that. And if I don't state something correctly, or if Jacob wants to elaborate on it, he can. That's a good point. That's correct. We do, as part of that inspection, we also did, Public Works staff did take photos of both the subject property and the area around the cove where we heard about that sedimentation. So yes, we have pictures of that event from 2025. So we have that baseline of where the conditions were at the time. And going forward, you're right, if there's any further erosion, sedimentation, we will have a baseline there. So we have that. I don't know if there's any further sedimentation around the cove. Again, that may happen just because of where natural drainage occurs. The property owner will only be responsible for erosion control on their property. If there's any other natural drainage and sedimentation that happens, that could also be from other areas. But if there's anything else that happens, we do at least have a baseline going forward. So I think that's fair to say. And any future development on this property, they'll be required to follow all land disturbance requirements.
Okay. And I can appreciate, you know, there's so much building and there's so much changing of the land going on, and nature is going to do what nature can do. But, you know, as much as we can control as far as making sure that we're protecting as much as we can of, okay, this is what we know now going forward. I just wanted to make sure that we had done everything we can to this point, but, you know, control as much as we can control. So thank you.
Bob Paulson, a couple of points of clarification, just kind of for my own. The cove that we're referencing, that is the northern part of proposed lot 1. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Mr. Paulson, if you state again exactly which area you're referring to?
So the cove that you've been referencing, is that the one that is in the northern part of proposed lot 1?
No, I'm sorry. The cove is actually on the Gardner Lake side, so it'd be off-site on the property to the east of Gardner East Road. So what we're referring to,
West.
are you referring to the information on page 7 that talks about?
I have no idea.
Oh, I've been referring to the cove. What I meant was in the Gardner Lake Cove. So not on this property, but across the street. That's where I think the neighbors are complaining about some sedimentation that's been happening around the cove of the lake. And that would be the off-site drainage and siltation. That's what staff also, they inspected not only this subject property, but also off-site at the lake, where there was reported siltation and sedimentation.
Okay. And then my second question is, and I know it doesn't affect this, but the trees that were cleared, was that on the eastern side of the northern portion?
Jacob Askin with Public Works is here. He has better knowledge of that specific area.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jacob Askin, Public Works. You can hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cove we're talking about is near Gardner East Road and Lake Road 9 or Lake Road 10 Street. It's actually not on the, as Sean mentioned, not on the subject property that's being platted currently. It is part of that northern portion of the property that would be part of a future phase. The tree clearing is directly upstream of that, so on the upstream, just upstream or to the east of Gardner East Road near Lake Road 10 Street. So I think Sean's going to try and point to where that is on the screen.
Yeah, that's the picture I was, thank you.
This general area, Jacob, is that correct?
It's not quite that big. It's, if you see where the existing houses are just to the south of your circle, there's a concentrated area of trees just to the north of
Right there.
that general area, yes. So just downstream or to the west, southwest of that red circle, there is a culvert that goes underneath Gardner East Road where runoff does leave the property. So a majority of the tree clearing was in that area. As Sean mentioned, corrective action was taken after we learned of this, and erosion control has been installed in that area. And seeding, the disturbed area on that property has been seeded and is being established. Vegetation is being established currently.
And there's Sean Pendley, planning staff, and I think the cove that I was referring to is the area in blue. Is that correct, Jacob?
Yeah, that's the approximate location, right around where the blue circle is, or blue dot.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at the, looks like an extension of the lake that goes under Gardner East Road into Lot 1 is what I was thinking you were talking about. Or is that not a cove?
I think that's just called like the Gardner Lake Backup Area, or there's an easement for that area called Gardner Lake Backup Area, so.
Yeah, Sean Pendley again. I don't think there's been any land disturbance on that part of the property on the subject plat. property.
Understood that.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Got another question in the audience. Go back.
Do what?
He's got his hand up out there. You want to recognize him, or are we past that?
Oh, yes, sir, if you want to come up to the podium so we can hear you. I just want to make sure, we'd like to make sure that we can have that recorded. So if you can just give us your name and address, and that would be appreciated.
This one? Yes.
Thank you. My name's Clifton Benke, 15250 Lake Road 12. My question is, this photograph, are these trees still there, or how current is this photograph? Or are those trees gone and therefore causing erosion?
I can attempt to answer that. So from what I understand, most of those trees have not been disturbed. That area is included in this plot. It is in most of that area is in what we the applicant has delineated as a stream buffer zone. So it is an area that is protected from disturbance or development except by permission. So that area is protected from future clearing or grading or development.
So those trees are going to stay there?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right, if there are not, then we will go ahead and close the public comments. Any other discussion among the board? I think we're good on that. Based off of the information that we have, based off of this specific, what we're looking at, if anybody is ready to make a recommendation on a motion, just let me know and we can move forward.
Donna Getzman, I move that the board approve application number W25-534-PP and W25-535-FP for a preliminary and final plat for 3 residential lots to be known as Gardner Lake Estates. First plat, for the reasons and subject to the stipulations recommended by the staff and set forth in the staff report, including a plat exception from the lot depth to width ratio requirement for Lot 2 and Lot 3.
John DeGrand, I'll second.
Donna Getzman,
Yes.
Craig Connell,
Aye.
John DeGran,
Aye.
Bob Paulson,
Aye.
and Jeff Huff.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Motion has passed. Okay. Let's, announcement of the board and the county commissioners meeting date.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, this application will be considered for final action by the Board of County Commissioners at the meeting on February 26th at 9:30 a.m. in this board hearing room in Olathe, Kansas, 111 South Cherry Street. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. That is all of the business before the board. Is there any other business that we need to address? Jay, do you have anything?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, all right, very good. Well, with that, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for being here tonight. Meeting adjourned.